and some of the barriers that exist and some learning hacks to support learning for autistics. And also understanding how to plan, implement and assess interest-based learning. So I guess one of the key important things in this talk is that I am autistic. So this is from both professional experience and personal lived experience. So there are quite a number of barriers to learning for autistics, the biggest of which is our communication differences. And it's not that we are annoying and choosing not to listen and all these things. We have a very different wired brain to non-autistics. And one of the things that we can't do very easily or at all is filter and prioritize. So for me in this room, there is noise from lights and people and chairs and coffee cups and all these things, and I hear all those. And I can't necessarily prioritize or filter what I'm supposed to listen to. This can link in with or lead to or compound auditory processing issues. And then we have that literal understanding layer as well. I have some lovely family friends, and when their daughter was quite young, she didn't speak, and they did everything for her, and I said to them, don't pick her up anymore. And they said, that's horrible, we can't not pick her up. She loves being carried around. I said, don't pick her up unless she does this, or in some other way communicates, because she has no reason to communicate. It wasn't about speech for me at all. It was about setting up a reason to communicate. She now doesn't stop talking. They don't blame me at all. So how do we set up those reasons to communicate, and how do we get people to listen to us? Because if you're going to talk to me and I'm listening to the light bulb, I need to know that you're going to talk to me. So have some signal that says, listen to me at this moment, but don't require eye contact. I make very good eye contact, although my psychologist says it's inappropriate and too much. But I learned eye contact in France, and if you want to get served in the bakery, and I love cakes, although I'm gluten-free now, which is very sad, but anyway, you don't get served unless you make eye contact. I'm great at eye contact. But for some autistics, many autistics, they actually can't hear and look. So when you ask them to look, you've asked them not to listen. Which one do you really want? When you say what you mean and mean what you say, we don't have to process. If you have someone with auditory processing difficulties, just use one-step instructions. When someone says something this long, what they hear is blah, 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 pen, blah, 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 blah. Well, what did you want me to do with the pen? Did you want me to stab someone with it? Put it in my desk? Write something? Who would know? Who would know? Even for highly verbal people like myself, when we get stressed, language goes. Verbal supports are very, very useful, visual supports. Because if your language has gone because you're highly stressed, what are you going to do unless you have something to replace that? Now, I did say we can be little police people. The thing is that we're also actually anarchists as well. And I know this is hard for non-autistic people to understand, how you can be a police person and an anarchist. But now you've got to be honest, how many of you break the speed limit? Right. How many of you think that the government is just revenue generating by having speed cameras? Right. Now, as that makes you all anarchists, okay? As an autistic person, I will not break the speed limit, because the faster you go, the worse the crash, the more likely the horrific injuries. So that is just plain stupid that you all do that. The government is not revenue generating, it's stupid taxing. You don't want to pay the tax, don't break the speed limit. It's not hard. I hope I'm not being offensive. We can do that and we don't mean to be. One of the reasons that we come across as being so off in this area is that our logic is different than your logic. And one of the biggest differences is around social structures, hierarchies, and roles and responsibilities. Fundamentally, most people on the spectrum do not believe in hierarchy. We fundamentally believe that everyone and everything is equal. That might mean my eraser is as valuable as my teacher. It might mean that my jumper is as valuable as my mother. It certainly doesn't mean my boss is more important than me or the principal is more important than me. And that's why we have so many problems with getting children to follow rules that they don't necessarily agree with because they don't have that innate understanding of social hierarchies. Does it really matter? And if we're going to change this, what do we change first? And it has to be around personal safety first. We have to understand personal safety and then safety of others. Every person needs a safe person to go and tell their story to. And every time I hear Matt, my heart breaks that no one saved him. No one saves lots of autistics. We are one of the most vulnerable populations because people don't believe us, particularly when we're non-verbal. So please be patient with us and help us to see your world and help us to understand that you understand our thinking. Because we do have a slight need for control. We are slight control freaks. Now, I hear lots of people talk about autistics and say that we need routine. I beg to differ. We need predictability. It's okay to change the routine as long as we know what's happening and we're in control. We are often perfectionists. When I was 11, my English teacher wouldn't mark my story that I wrote because I wrote it in pencil. I'd written over 7 pages in tiny, tiny handwriting. It was beautiful, but he wouldn't mark it because I wrote in pencil. My handwriting has been appalling ever since, because what's the point? When you challenge our perfectionism, do it in ways that aren't a problem, because you remember I said we have broken record buffering thinking for young people? I'm stuck in that loop of there's no point. And that was a very long time ago, because our broken record thinking means we carry hurt and negativity with us forever and continue to go back and analyze it. So how do we deal with this? How do you as people who support people deal with this? Control is managed with choices and options, and it doesn't have to be a preferred option and a non-preferred option. It just has to be options. Predictability is with timetables, visuals, planners, and a change module built into that says things change, it's okay, or things will be different at some stage. We can proactively manage anxiety with interoception and mindfulness. And if you don't know the word interoception, please write it down and Google it. If you are in South Australia normally, go onto the Department for Education website. We have a whole page on interoception. Model learning through mistakes. Because you know how we say in schools, it's okay that you got it wrong, you're learning. And then they do a test and you mark them 8 out of 10 and you said you got 2 wrong. How can we balance those two? Don't forget, autistics are logical. It's either okay to make mistakes or it isn't, because you haven't taught us context around it. Use self-correcting materials. I'm trained in Montessori as well, and I love the self-correcting materials because you never get it wrong in a way that matters. Video modelling, it's great, particularly when it's self-video modelling, so you've spliced together lots of footage to show the child or adult that they're doing something successfully, and then they know they can do it, and then they can do it. And for every young person that says to me, I hate it when they call me stupid, and they can hear through the wall because we have super Spidey Batman hearing, some of us, and we do. We have a lot of issue around emotional regulation. This is my favourite picture of the month. So this is one of my 1 in the morning drawings. And what we've done in this drawing is we're trying to help people understand what it is about autism that means that we struggle to emotionally regulate. And this actually applies to all young people with trauma as well. We have an autonomic nervous system, all of us, which is the seesaw part. When you're getting stressed, you can't be getting calm at the same time, can you? What happens for autistics is that we don't really connect to our bodies in the same way, and we don't get the body signals. So I look fine, but my brain is getting more and more stressed and distressed. But I look fine, and then all of a sudden, everybody knows I'm not fine. And that's because I've gone into that big emotion state, and I still might not even connect to that. And then I get overloaded, and everybody knows, and it's all over. And I might, people go, oh, these autistics and their meltdowns. It's not a meltdown, it's a sympathetic nervous system overload. It's a biological response. When we heard this morning about that chronic stress and the cortisol, that's what being autistic is. We have chronic stress and chronic overload. Is it any surprise that we act out sometimes? So what we need to do is bring people back into their balance, their homeostasis, or their only slight sympathetic nervous system overload. We want to be in that learning zone. So how do we do that? If you have poor or atypical interoception, you actually don't know when you're getting angry, so you can't do anything about it. Is that my 5 minutes? How can we help people to connect to themselves? So we can do interoception activities 3 times a day. We can do additional interoception activities, and we can map what we look like and how we are for our different zones of regulation. If I'm standing there and I suddenly go rigid, am I comfortable, or am I really stressed or distressed? It doesn't matter if you don't know if I'm stressed or distressed. It matters that you know I'm not okay, and you help me then to calm down. Sometimes we worry about not knowing what it is that's the issue. It doesn't matter, just help people calm down. This is an example of a regulation zone which is off the department's website. And this one is using pictures, but you can use words. And it's to help people to learn how to co-regulate the children and young people. We often say to people with any kind of challenging behaviour, you need to fix it, you need to stop. If I didn't need to yell and scream, I wouldn't. If I could manage myself, I would. But how do you know when to co-regulate somebody? How do you know when to step in and help them to feel better? And it's in this bit, the pink zone. Before you're in full-on panic, which is too late. Nobody can do anything when they're on full-on panic zone, full-on sympathetic overload. At that pink, you can do something about it still. And what we say is, it's not just about what can the young person or adult do for themselves, it's what can someone else do to help too. If my shoulders go rigid just before I go into overload, do an activity with me that relaxes my shoulders. Because what it does is it physically and neurologically calms you down. The other barriers to learning that we have are that we have a very narrow attention span, and we heard from Dr. Christie about how everybody shouldn't be multitasking, which is great because then this is universal design for learning. Everybody should be doing one thing. We have very focused attention, and this is from Dr. Wen Lawson, and this is from Dr. Wen Lawson as the reason why autistics should be doing interest-based learning. Because our brains actually don't engage unless we're interested. Remember how I talked about we don't have the same social understanding? Some children will engage because the teacher has asked them. They will learn because they feel they should be. Autistics can't do that. We can't just decide we're going to learn. We have to actually be interested. And our brainwaves don't organise themselves unless we are. It also decreases our anxiety, and we're more focused. If we're focused and we're not anxious, we're not going to be throwing chairs. And we'll be enjoying learning, which means we want to come to school, or we want to come to day service, or we want to come to counselling with you. If we can increase strengths without making individuals feel bad about their weakness, we can grow well-being and mental health and resilience. We can plan for interest-based learning, and we can meet Australian curriculum goals by doing so. We can broaden and deepen by prompting. I once taught a student through rugby stadiums. We learned everything, and I hate rugby and stadiums. But he loved it, and he was engaged and interested. Anything through anything if you want to. And that is everything.